back another Wednesday night, Cubfidential. We got Brian with us. He'll be in just a second. Got a special guest as it's All Star Week. We got Ben Zobrist, former World Series MVP. Wrote a book, Prepare for the Pressure. We're going to talk with him about it. Great book. Definitely, if you can, go out and get one. Worth the read. You'll enjoy it. Let's bring Brian in real quick.
Good evening. How you
How you
doing?
doing? Good.
I'm
So,
good.
Brian, you were in Philly for the All Star festivities. You didn't get to
Yes,
watch. You didn't stay for the game, but you were there for the home run derby and some other events. How was it?
it was good. I went as part of the Major League Baseball Alumni Association. We had an event Sunday night. About 120 former players were there, so got to hang out with some guys I hadn't seen in a while and get caught up on the labor negotiations and what's going on and maybe what to expect with that. And then I got to play golf at Trout National, the course
Nice.
that he just put together on Monday. So I played some bad golf on a really nice course and enjoyed my time there, and then came home yesterday.
Nice. Well, that sounds like a fun little weekend. Here's
Yes, it was.
Botkins. I'm glad you had a good time. That's cool. Here's Botkins. Welcome to the show, Botkins.
What's up, my man? What's up,
How you
JB?
doing?
I'm all right, Brian. How's it going, man?
All good, all good. Thank you.
So, Botkins, this is a special treat for you. We're going to bring in our guest, our World Series MVP from when the Cubs last won the World Series, the first time in 108 years, Ben Zobrist.
All
How you
right.
doing,
Thanks
Ben?
for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I mean, got the pleasure of interviewing you last night to talk a little bit about your book, Preparing for the
Yep.
Pressure.
Yep.
Great book. Tell everybody about the book, what made you write it, and what was your inspiration for it.
Yeah, well, it's a book that really is trying to help young athletes, their parents, and coaches, and just the sports world in general, try to be a little bit more mentally and emotionally healthy as they're going through their journey. If it's for an athlete, I really think there's some keys in there that can help them be a better player, and some things that help me be a little consistent over the course of my career. But then there are things I wish I would have known. So I went through a couple of bouts of depression. One of them, which was right after the World Series in 2016 when we won with the Cubs, and so I was unprepared for that resilience piece, that mental and emotional health piece with everything that was thrown at me after that. But that's really after I retired, I got involved in the mental health world. I started speaking again. And when I started speaking to young athletes, their parents and coaches, I realized there's a lot here. There's a lot of people that are feeling these same things, and we got to talk about them. And so I wanted to bring them out in this book, but also give them some things that I think are going to make them better athletes too.
So one of the things that when I was reading the book that I found interesting, and I know from talking with a lot of athletes, is when you retire, what you go through. And I have a question for both Brian and yourself. What was that experience like when you stepped away from the game? And how did you figure out what you wanted to do next? And what steps did you take?
Well, for me, it felt like a mourning period, like a death in the family, because not only with my career and being around baseball and with my dad and everything. So it's one day you're playing, you have the uniform on, and the next day you don't, and you're kind of looking around and like, what am I going to get up tomorrow to look forward to? And that's one of the things. I went back to school. I coached. I got my undergrad. I need something to look forward to, and we had that constantly while we were playing and being around baseball. And once it stopped, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. But I knew I had to find something, some reason to get up in the morning and be productive.
Yeah, that's right. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. There is a part of you that dies when you stop being the player themselves. I mean, you still have all that experience, you still have a lot to offer, and you know that. But it's like, okay, well, this is something that you didn't just retire from like a 15-year career. You retired from like a 35-year career when you started and you were a little boy, and so it's a part of your identity at that point. And for me, there was definitely a grieving point. There was also a part of me that just wanted to get away from sports pretty much cold turkey, just to kind of like see what is life like outside of this, right? You start having summers and all that kind of thing. And so for me, I was like, what do I want to do if I ever go back into baseball? So you kind of enter, you're a little lost and confused and trying to find your way. But I think For me, it was also a time of discovery. Like, what are the things that I've never discovered about myself, things that I enjoy, and how can I translate the things that I did well on the field to some other realm? Which is one of the things guys struggle with. Like, how do you figure that out? But it takes time, and it's like it's a total discovery period.
That makes sense.
Uh,
So
Um, Ben, I had a question real quick, JB, not to cut you off. I
yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna, Ben, you mentioned like the retirement and the depression. Like I see a lot of like working with the military and being part of the former service member myself. Like I always feel like service members when they do 20 plus years and they get out, it's like what do they do next, and that kind of leads them down to like depression and and those types of things. Do you guys feel like that's kind of what happened to you, like with baseball? Like you did something kind of this routine thing every day. You had somebody either like a coach or telling you kind of what to do, where to go, and all this routine. And then one day you just wake up and it's gone. It's almost, I equate it to even like prisoners in prison who've done a long period of time. It's like every day they were told what to do, and then they just get out, and it's just like they call it institutionalized. I'm not saying like, but like it's almost like military and kind of maybe your career was a little bit like very similar. I don't know if that's how you feel. Like you just woke up one day and was like, I don't have anybody tell me what to do or where to go or what to do now. And at a young age at that, right? Like what we don't think about is, most players retire at the early age of like 35 if you're, and that's we're considered like a veteran at that point. But we still have a long life to live, like you still have hopefully 40 more years of life and then some.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, there's a part of it, and Brian, you can speak to this too, where I felt like when you plug yourself into the machine, you know what to do, right? You know exactly how to go about your business, and you've built that over the course of a long period of time. And there's a lot of confidence and security in feeling that. And then all of a sudden, you're not just not in it; you're like totally out of it. And I think that's why a lot of guys end up going right back into being coaches because they at least know the world that they're entering into. Even if they haven't coached before, they understand the routine and they understand that they're going to have a different role in that. But when the whole environment changes and you're back at home, it's definitely like, wait, I got to make my own schedule completely here, and I got to find another career. And you're kind of like an intern again at the very bottom of whatever you start doing. And I think that's what's so tough is to still have a level of confidence knowing that's okay. Like I may be 40 years old or 38 years old when I retired, but I'm starting new and fresh, and people do the same thing when they totally transition careers in midlife, and that's how life goes sometimes. And as long as you find that motivation, which is tough to find when you have that adrenaline, right, Brian? Like we had that adrenaline that you feel when you're getting ready to get in the box and you're going to have that at bat or you're going to be in a big moment in a game, and that's a lot of times what drives you, but you don't have that anymore. So where do you find it?
Yeah, for me, it was the biggest thing is to separate what my self-worth, what I felt was my self-worth as a person and my self-worth as a ball player. And sometimes that was the thing that was difficult, was when you're going good, you feel good about yourself as a player, you're having good years and things like that. When you're going bad, you shouldn't let that define how you act as a person. And at sometimes it gets, you get in your own head, and that messes up mentally how you treat people, how people treat you, and all these things. And that was kind of hard to deal with. Like I'm the same person where I'm hitting 190 or hitting 290, but people treat you different. And sometimes you look at yourself in the mirror like you're a different person. There's something wrong with you because you're not getting any hits, and that's not the right way to think about it.
Yeah, and there's no more hits coming, when you retire. So I think for anybody transition, it could be a high school kid, it could be a college guy that's they're ending something they did for a very long time, could be at home and a big role changes. I mean, those types of things, those are big transitions because they're a piece of your identity, but they're not all of it, right? So it's like, can I take the jersey off and still know who Ben is underneath? And I think that's that human piece that I wanted to use this book to help not just the athlete, but the parents and the coaches develop the human underneath the uniform. And in that way, kind of give them some tools that are going to prepare them for that big transition whenever it does come.
And that's one of the things I noticed when reading. I mean, in every chapter, you broke it down. You gave, like, I wouldn't call them tasks, but questions or, yeah, what do you call it? thoughts of what you can do to improve yourself in that particular area. And I thought you did that really well. Sometimes it's not easy to do that when you're trying to get your point across, but you actually put, good food for thought in there and good ways to practice to make yourself better.
Well, I appreciate
Now,
it. I wanted
yeah.
it to come out for those that are rising, the kids, but also for those of us that are a little bit more rooted in life, right? So, what if we're looking at it from our perspective as people that have been there and done that at some level? We there are things we need to grow in each of those chapters. I try to give something for all of us to kind of think upon and see if there's something you could be doing to continue that growth mindset, even if you're done, if you think that you're past your best days.
So last night you told us something really cool, and I had a couple of people already ask about it. So there's a chance to win your World Series MVP Camaro. What do people need to do to get that?
Right. Well, go to cfsweepstakes.com, and that is or .org. You can go to either one, but CF Sweepstakes, and that's Champion Forward Sweepstakes. So that website will you can all you do is give a small donation to the organization and you're entered to win, and you can do that more than once too, so you can enter yourself multiple times. And it's one of these things that I knew that car is fun. It's fun to drive a Camaro. It's a top down situation, really fun, but ultimately it's just sitting in the garage most of the time. 8,000 miles on it. It's basically brand stinking new still. And I'm like, I want this to have a purpose that goes beyond just how pretty it is. Right. And so this is why I wanted to give this away. I wanted to get the word out about what we're doing at Champion Forward and get more people involved with that mission.
That's awesome. And I mean, what better way to get a Camaro by giving back to a great organization? And then it's not just any Camaro, it was a Camaro given to the World Series MVP. So get out there and donate and maybe win that Camaro and go around, get it up to 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to win it.
I think the drawing is October 15th, and we're going to do it live. So, once you enter, you just got to be watching that for sure. It's going to be fun.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your career. So in 2015, you're coming off the World Series, and then you end up going to the Cubs back with Joe Madden, who was your manager in Tampa Bay. What was in your mindset when you got to Chicago?
Oh man, there was no time to waste. I mean, we were locked and loaded, ready to win the coveted championship that had never been won. Hadn't been won in 108 years, right? In the modern era, and everybody wanted to be a part of that championship. And so being on that team and knowing like we had a great mix. I mean, at that point in my career, I knew what a really good mix of a championship team looked like. I didn't know all the guys personally on the team, but I knew there was already championship players on it. I knew there was young, hungry players on it. You had Rizzo, who was kind of coming into his own as a franchise player at the time. You had Javi, who was unbelievable athlete, and Schwarber, who was power guy, and KB, who was the MVP that year in 2016. So I mean, a lot of young, really good players. But you add in like Arrieta was in his prime, Lester. You had Kyle Hendricks, who was unbelievable as a young pitcher even at the time. So I mean, we just were stacked. We had a lot of great players, and so we walked into spring training believing that we were the team to beat. We were the best team, and we had this little phrase that they said in spring training a lot: push play. You just got to push play, because you push play. If this team does what we do, nobody has to be the hero. Everybody just has to do what they do, and you put this mix of players together, we're going to be a really tough team to beat.
So I mean, you definitely had a ton of talent. But one of the things that you mentioned in the book was Joe Madden and what he brought to the team. And everybody that does not aware, this is the book that Ben wrote. Make sure you go out and buy it. You get it on Amazon and wherever books are sold. But tell us what Joe Madden did for the organization. What made him the leader to bring the organization to the World Series?
Well, Joe's perfect for the situation like Chicago, and I knew it when he went to Chicago. I was like, I know what he does well, and he takes pressure off of young players and allows them to rest at ease and just kind of work on their game and develop. He takes a lot of the media pressure away because Joe's great at talking to the media. He keeps things positive. He makes sure it's fluid and hip, and and he makes you kind of get out of your comfort zone in a good way, where it's like, let's be goofy, let's have fun, let's make sure we're still kids out there. And by the way, respect 90, so he had traditional values, but he had a real cool spin on how to make that modern for younger players. And so it didn't take long for me to see in Chicago that it had really grown on guys like Rizzo, KB, Javi, Schwartz, and everybody was really comfortable with him, right? And so kind of I knew the kind of how he would use bullpens, how he would use starters. If we could hold our bullpen together, knowing going into spring training, we were like, okay, we don't have a real like everyday closer that's been that lockdown guy yet, but we got plenty of good, solid relievers that if we can piece things together and be winning come, July 15th, like right about where we are now, we knew that they were going to go get somebody. Theo was going to go get somebody. And sure enough, he did. He went and got Chappie at the break. And man, once we got Chappie, it was like, okay, like we just need to focus, boys, because if we focus, we are the best team and we'll find ourselves there at the top at the end.
Ben,
Yeah,
you were coming off the Royals. You were coming off that Royals 2015 series team, and then going to Chicago. And I've been watching the Lovable Reunion podcast, and you just kind of mentioned it itself. Like in Chicago, you guys said, "Hey, you guys were talking World Series or bust." Like in the locker room, was it the same with the Royals, or like, can you just kind of talk about a little bit like what the difference of the clubhouses were in the Royals run and the Cubs run, and kind of those experiences there?
Well, they were thinking the same way. There's definitely a level of hunger, and I'll just say even a healthy anger that those clubhouses felt for winning and not just getting to the World Series. It can't be enough to be like, oh, we made it to the World Series. What an amazing experience. No, you have to want to win it. And I think knowing there was plenty of players on our team that had won a championship. I just won with Kansas City. Lester and Rossi had won them in Boston. Lackey. There were guys that knew what that felt like, and they were not going to be satisfied if we just made it to the World Series. In Kansas City, they went to the World Series the year before and lost to the Giants in a heartbreaking fashion. So every one of those guys was
No, Ben,
highly.
they've lost to Madison Bumgarner. That's who they lost to. They lost to Mad Bum. That's who they lost to.
That's a good point. They lost to that. Yeah, I mean, that guy, it was incredible, right? And so the Royals, I knew coming in there, I wasn't there from the start of the year on. So I came in and they had already built that culture. They expected they were already like 10 games up in the Central Division. And so they expected to be in the playoffs and win in the playoffs. So they were definitely not going to be satisfied with anything less than that. Doesn't mean we didn't dig ourselves a hole just about every game we won in that postseason, but we came back. That team had such a resilient spirit of like down in the 6th inning, 7th inning, our bullpen's going to hold it down. And those guys had the contact rate that was sky high compared to any other team. So we knew that we were going to hit good relievers because they thrive on swing and miss, right? And so we knew we were going to make contact and find a way to score runs late in the game. So that was a pretty special team. But you get to Chicago, I knew it was a bunch of young, hungry, more power guys, and I knew I was going to fit in the middle of that in a good way because I'll be on base and those guys can drive me in.
You were kind of the veteran, and they were, as you mentioned, like they had a bunch of young kids, Javi, Addison Russell, and you kind of played those, second base. You played in the outfield. Like, what was kind of the mentorship, or that you applied, or was it just like, did you ever have to pull guys aside, like, hey, this is kind of how it worked on, or do you just kind of sit and watch? They just kind of watch you go about business, or how does your veteran style lead with that such a young crew like that?
Well, definitely early on, I was more of a vociferous leader because I'm not going to sit down there and show up at spring training and say, hey guys, this is how you do this. I have to show it and prove that I know how to do it. And I put together a great routine and work with everybody that's new, all the new coaches for me and staff and training staff. And once I gained that respect in the clubhouse and guys saw the way that I went about business, they knew that I had already produced on the field. So they're like, okay, watch Zobrist. He knows what he's doing. And so a lot of the first year or two there was just, how am I modeling this? And as I spent 3 or 4 years there, the last couple of years were a little bit more, talk to guys a little bit more, talk to Schwarber, talk to Hap, talk to some of the young guys that started coming on our team. Even Nico is last year. He got called up. Getting a chance to, speak up a little bit more. We already had Lester, Ross, like Hayward. We had guys that were going to speak up when something needed to be said. And that was what was so great about that. Enabled me to not worry about that side of it, because that does have to happen at times for young guys. But I didn't have to police anything. I literally just had to be a model, just go out there and show what it's like to do that, and show up and have the great at bat when you need to have the great at bat. Make the play, make the basic plays, make all those plays, and you don't have to be flashy, because we got Javi out here. Javi's going to cover so much ground. I didn't have to, right? So I was highly aware of like the talent around me, so that I was just able to kind of settle into what I was good at.
So, I mean, obviously, you're in 2016. You get the game-winning hit in the top of the 10th. It's every kid's dream to drive in the winning run in the World Series in a Game 7. So, growing up, what gave you the ability to go out and do that? And after it happened, how did you feel, and what were the emotions that went through that?
Well, yeah, I don't think any kids out there, thinking about eking one down the opposite field line for a double. They're usually planning on hitting a home run or something in that moment. Well, I knew that
they're all Rajay Davis. They're all Rajay Davis, right? We're all Rajay Davis.
Exactly. Rajay did that one. Yeah, man. For me, I was like, look, don't try to be a hero, because that's not what you do. It's not going to work against this pitcher. Brian Shaw was one of the nastiest eighth inning guys in the game at the time, and it was really tough to pick it up. It's funky, and you don't face him. He's like a one-of-one kind of guy, right? So I had already had a couple of bats that did not work out very well, and I was like, I got to go away from my strength here. Even though the ball's coming into me, I like the ball in. I know he's going to stay away, and I'm going to roll it over if I try to do my normal thing. So I got to stay inside of everything. Brian, you understand this. It's like there's some guys you have to stay inside of. Otherwise, any normal swing, you're going to roll over. So my whole entire focus was left side of the field. Whatever I do, even if he comes hard in, I'm going to freaking get inside of that thing and go the opposite field, because I like to pull the ball, but I had tried that and it just didn't work. So when I was able to shoot a ball down the line like that, man, like I was so focused on what I was trying to do, I didn't hear anything till I got to second base. I jumped because I knew it was such a big moment. My emotions came out. And I looked over at Rizzo, and he's like, "Oh my God," like he's like doing this thing. And it hit me. I'm like, "Oh my!" Like that's the biggest athletic moment I will ever have in my life. Like I knew it at that moment, but it wasn't getting any better than that, And I knew my life was probably going to change if we went on and won that game, and sure enough, it has. But it was surreal. There were so many moments after that I'm like, what is happening right now? You're running in from left field. We won the World Series. Next thing you know, you're hugging everybody. You're hugging Bill Murray and Eddie Vedder. Where are we? This is like baseball heaven, and it really was just a moment that in time that just gets frozen. And watching Rossi get carried off the field, and then you go into the clubhouse and you're popping champagne, and there's moments like that. Like it feels like it was yesterday to a certain degree, some of those moments. And then, if you rewind everything in the last 10 years, it's like, it feels like 50 years, sometimes how much time has passed. But I know when we get back together soon again here, it'll feel just like it was yesterday again.
Were there any moments?
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry, Bacchus. Were there any moments, Ben, where
go ahead.
After the Game 7 and you're winning it all, did you ever get like any quiet time to just kind of reflect? Did you go back on the field after running around in the clubhouse and seeing everybody? Did you get like 5 or 10 minutes just to process everything?
No, I really didn't, because it was like immediately to interviews, immediately to hugging anybody and everybody that they're like, it was crazy. And then we go in, we're all celebrating, and you go straight from the celebration to then they give away the MVP trophy and say that you won it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I get ushered back out on the field for the car presentation, and then there's people grabbing at you, and then your family comes out there, and then there's, I don't think I had a dull moment until we got to the airplane, which was like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, something like that. It was very, very late. And we got to the airplane, and kids are falling asleep in your lap, and guys are dancing on the plane, and there's loud music. And so there was just it was more of like, I'm going to see everything that's happening right now, because this is just beyond. This is like another planet, right? And so I think I finally, like, we got back at 8 or 9 a.m., maybe 7 or maybe 8 a.m. in the morning. As everybody's rush hour traffic on the way into the city, we're passing everybody with the motorcade. I mean, there was fire trucks putting water over our plane when we pulled into O'Hare, but we had this motorcade and people getting out of their cars, right, on Irving Park or whatever road we were coming in on from the interstate, and just seeing how happy people were. There was a crowd in front of Wrigley still, like at 7 a.m. from all night long, just slept out there and waited for us to
That
get
was
back.
me, Ben. That was me. That was me.
It was you.
That was me.
Hey, man. Appreciate you, man. It was, I mean, you can't, a fan base can't make you feel any more special than that. We felt like the Beatles at that parade. It was crazy.
That's awesome. Baka, you had a
Ben,
question?
you mentioned that the hit was one of the most athletic things that you've done. I just, Ben, you played all over the diamond and in the outfield. Like, I would think that's athletic in itself. Like, did you always kind of grow up as a super utility guy, or how did that come about? I know you talked about like Joe kind of being that guy that kind of put that plug in your ear, but like even as like growing up, like did you just kind of play all over? Because like to me, you have to be athletic to play all over like you did.
Yeah, and honestly, I think there's a lot of really good athletes in baseball. They're very skilled. Obviously, it's skill first sport, but you'd be surprised how many baseball players were multi-sport athletes. And I remember, like my first love was actually basketball, to be honest. So I loved the game of basketball. I love baseball too. I ran cross country. I played football. I played soccer when I was younger. I mean, there's a lot of things that probably benefited me and gave me the coordination. But you also have to have that mental skill and of being adaptable, right? And going, okay, yeah, I don't feel very comfortable with this move, but I'm going to learn it and learn it really quick, because I know that the game's going to come at me quick when you're a professional, right? And if they throw you in, and they were throwing me into some spots I'd never been in before. I never played first base, really. And then Joe throws me in over at first base one day, and I'm like, my gosh, like, so weird, because you're like going the opposite direction of the ball. It'd be a ground ball, and I'd be like going that direction with the ball like I normally was, and have to hustle back to the bag and catch the throw from the infielder. So it's stuff like that you don't realize there's so much skill and nuance to each little thing. But absolutely, being an athlete, you have to do that to be able to move around and such.
That's awesome. So now the 2016 team, first World Series in 108 years. Right now we're kind of rebuilding. Have you followed along this season?
Yeah, enough. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of full 9 inning games, but enough to pay attention to the swoons, we'll say, that the highs and the lows. It's been tough sometimes. I know how it is in the clubhouse. You know how it is, Brian. It's like you never know what's going to happen, and especially when you get injuries early with the pitching staff. Gosh, I mean, when they went on that streak, even with all the injuries, I was like, ooh, I hope this can sustain us, because I know this doesn't last, especially not when you're fully healthy, when you're not fully healthy. But then, when they went in that swoon, I'm like, oh, man, we got to stop the bleeding. And then they got hot again, and PCA got hotter than ever. I mean, you can't underscore enough how important that guy has been for the ball club, to kind of keep the organization energized, keep the big league team on their feet in moments, and really shined. I mean, he's turned into a guy that's like one of the best players ever for certain stretches. That's what's crazy. He's doing kind of historic things right now, and it's hard to sustain that at the big league level. But my gosh, seems like he's coming into his own.
Last question I have for you, and then we'll wrap up. So the relationships on the 2016 team, are you still close with anybody on that team? And what was it like? Who were you friends with from there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we were definitely closer during that time, because you're doing everything together. And then everybody, I'm the type of guy, when I retired, I was like, those guys are very busy with their career. I'm not going to bother them. You know, I know how tough it is when they all have little kids and they're all growing their families and things like that. So, you know, I just kind of got busy with other things. I started plugging into the next generation. I've been helping the Cubs a little bit here and there when they asked me to. And, you know, it's definitely something where I'll reach out occasionally and talk to certain guys, right, and find out like how's life, what's going on, and you know I think it's going to be really interesting to see everybody come back together because you know you see how close some guys are from still playing. Like obviously Rizzo played a couple years ago. You got some guys that just have retired, and then other guys that have been retired for longer, and you kind of see what's been going on with their life. Like how have they been staying active and or not, you know, and we're going to play golf together. So we'll find out kind of, I'm sure the competition and the chatter will be plentiful in those moments. But yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with guys and also just remembering everything that we accomplished together because it is a very, very special group to be able to be a part of.
That's awesome. Anyone have any last questions for Ben?
Yeah, I just got Ben. I was a lifelong Cubs fan. Grew up here. I live in Missouri. Grew up in Missouri. And for you to help deliver us a World Series, I know it's probably the most unforgettable moment of your life. But outside of my kids being born, it's the most unforgettable moment of my lifetime. Like I said, I drove the 8 hours to Chicago to make sure I was in Chicago. Lived out my lifelong bucket list dream. I appreciate it. I'll never forget it, and everything else. I do have one last question, and even Brian, for both of you, I guess I always like to ask this question to every athlete I talk to. So you guys are already the one percenters, I like to say, but is there somebody that you looked at that was like the 1% of the 1%er was like that guy's something special, whether it was a pitcher or a hitter or maybe both, where you're like, we're different than everybody else, but that guy's different than us?
Well, I played with or against the Braves' good staff: Glavine, Smoltz, Maddox, Pedro Martinez when he was in his prime, Randy Johnson when he was in his prime. All of us are pretty good. Some guys are just at another level. And I could say, like, people ask me the best pitchers I face. Randy Johnson as a left-hander, because I was a switch hitter like Ben. Randy Johnson as a left-hander. Pedro Martinez as a right-hander. They were guys that were another level. You know when good players pay attention and talk about guys that they're at another level. And that's how the talk was about Pedro and Randy.
Yeah, that's incredible. I never got to face Pedro, but I did get to face Randy at the end of his career. So we have that in common, Brian. But
it wasn't a lot of fun.
Man, yeah, those it's kind of crazy when you watch some of those guys, and then you play against them. Like Jeter was a guy that I grew up watching, and he was a special player, right? And I'm like, what is it that makes him so special? I mean, but watching him play in a series and playing against him, man, he just fought and battled and found a way to have good quality at bats and hit tough pitches, just get base hits and so clutch. I mean, I was in left field when David Price, you know, the guy's not a home run hitter. And for his 3,000th hit, you know, he comes up and the curveball off David, he hits a curveball out to left field at Yankee Stadium and the place just erupts. And, you know, Posada hugs him at home. And it's just this whole, like, I'm like, okay, that guy, he's got some sort of agreement you know, with God that like he's going to be blessed in certain ways. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Another guy I grew up watching that I know, it's funny because I brought him up one time to an infield coach. I loved watching the Wizard, Ozzy, right? And I know you know him well, Brian, but it's like he was unbelievable. Like he was so small and the acrobatic way he played short. I brought him up one time to a infield coach and he goes, no. He said, don't even bring that name up right now. He said, we're talking apples to oranges right now. He does things nobody else can do. So don't even bring up a drill you heard that Ozzy did. Okay. It's not even going to help. So he put me in my place very quickly right there. But it's like that's the kind of stuff. I once shared a bathroom and a urinal next to Ozzy, you know, so that was the dream. You know? We had a card show together, and it's like, hey, Ozzy. So It's just things like that where you realize, man, I get to play with, the guys, play against the guys that I grew up watching do amazing things. And that was special.
That's awesome. Well, Ben, I appreciate you coming on both nights in a row. Don't forget to go on and get the book. Jay, put the book full screen real quick. This is Ben's book, Prepare for the Pressure. Ben, where can people purchase the book?
Well, it's really found anywhere books are sold. So if you search that "Prepare for the Pressure" on Amazon, you're gonna find it. It's in Barnes and Noble and other places. But prepareforthepressure.com has links to all that, and my nonprofit website where they can also sign up for the sweepstakes, championforward.org. You'll see the connection to both of those things at championforward.org.
Well, Ben, we appreciate your time. Thank you again. Have a great night. Good luck with the book, and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Take care, Ben. Thank you.
Guys, appreciate you.
You're the man, Ben.
All right, guys. Well, that's about all the time we have. Anyone have anything to add tonight?
No, that was just a special show. Get Ben on to talk a little bit, reminisce about not only the 2016 Cubs, but a little bit about the 15 Royals that he was on that brought a championship here to Kansas City for the first one after 30 years.
Yeah, great guy. Just love who he is. Very, very personable. Good guy. Botkins, what was your thoughts talking with Ben?
Oh man, that just yeah. I mean, I'm speechless, and that's hard to say. So I don't really have any thoughts, Jay. I mean, I'm on cloud 85, and it ain't as I've been on the grass right for once. You know what I mean? I'm just living life right now.
So the MLB draft was over the weekend. I'm working for next week to get one or maybe two of the draft picks on. We'll see what happens. That'll be interesting to see from the other perspective, and definitely hear your experience, Brian, from back when you were in the draft and how it's different now or what it was like. Because that's we don't talk about the baseball draft much. We're starting to now. It's starting to become bigger.
Yeah, they're trying to make a spectacle out of it, but before you barely knew anything.
Yeah, it was wild. It used to be a lot of rounds. Now they cut it down completely, which makes it a little bit easier. It's not as hard to reach out to 70 people. I don't have to do that, thankfully. But I do have one, possibly two, that may be coming on either next week or the next few weeks. So we'll have somebody on. But if no one else has anything else, we will see you next week. Second half of the season will start on Friday for the Cubs, and we'll see where it ends up. They had a good ending to it after a Jekyll and Hyde first half, but they're in stalking distance. We'll talk more and see what
they're in great position. If somebody would have said at the All-Star break the Cubs would be, what are they, 12 over 500?
Yeah,
we would all take it,
without a doubt. Even with the ups and downs, it's been phenomenal. But we'll see you guys next week, next Wednesday, same time. Have a good week.
Thank you, guys.